welcome back to another episode, aka another conversation with me. I think it's been a minute, and at this point, I should probably just stop apologizing for a messed up releasing schedule and just release the episode. Like, I think actions, as they always say, speak very much better than words. And so instead of coming here every time to be like, I'm sorry for the messed up release schedule, I just try my best to be releasing episodes as consistently as possible. Anyway, today's conversation is going to be very short because I just wanted to talk about a train of thoughts that has been on my mind for a while. And if my voice sounds like I'm tired or I'm just having some sort of low energy in the way I'm speaking, I apologize for that. For some reason, my eye has been tweaking really bad for the past couple of days. I don't know if anybody has experienced this, but this situation whereby your eyes, either the lower or the upper eyelid, it just starts tweaking and it's shaking and it's just moving by itself. This thing wants to make me run mad because I don't understand why. As I'm talking now, it's tweaking small small. To do it's like it's doing it intermittently. But anyway, you don't really care about that. Let's just dive right into why we're having a conversation today. So recently, I've been going through a lot of podcasts, specifically Nigerian podcasts, and I came to realize something. A good number of podcasts that I was bumping into, let's say 90, not even 90, 99% of popular mainstream Nigerian podcasts that I was bumping into, they often started with conversations like this. My brother's wife and I had an affair, and I loved it. Or you hear something like, my best friend of 29 years didn't attend my wedding and slept with my husband. Or you hear something like, this is something I'll never tolerate in my life, as a man or as a woman. Now, these are just a few of the topics that I was able to gather, but there are more topics that are similar to these that are often usually the theme or the topics or the entire conversation that is had on most Nigerian podcasts. And I started to think, do Nigerians only just want gist? Like, do Nigerians only want gossip or they only want to just plug in their headphones and hear the story of somebody doing something taboo? Because there's me who talks about, self-development, everything self-love, self-growth, just being the best version of yourself. I'm talking about missing your ex-friends. I'm talking about all these topics. And I do have a consistent listenership, right? Although it's smaller in comparison to what mainstream podcasts have. And when you compare the content when you compare the content between both podcasts, you come to realize that the one who has thousands and thousands of listeners, they are basically talking about gist, gossip, oh my god, hot takes, hot takes, hot takes, hot takes. And I was like, am I like, is this worth it? Is this entire thing worth it? One key thing I even wanted to mention was that recently I started to feel some sort of imposter syndrome when it comes to releasing topics or talking about topics on the podcast because before I mention all of this, I have made peace with that, and I spoke to a friend of mine, and the entire conversation was beautiful, and I'll share that with you towards the ending of this episode, which is just a few minutes to come. But initially, before I had a conversation with this friend, I was really worried and I was really troubled because I started to feel like an imposter. I started to feel like I was not capable. I don't know if that's the word, but capable of talking of the topics that I talked about. I would feel like, I'm talking about self development. I'm talking about, being the best version of yourself. I'm talking about so many things related to self development. And I started to think, do I sound like somebody who is just pouring out advice, and it's just like I started to feel unqualified basically. I might not be able to find the right words to say everything as to what I was going through. But basically, I reached a period recently whereby I was like, is this thing worth it? I mean, when it comes to, I do enjoy doing what I'm doing, but almost every time I keep on asking myself, am I qualified to talk about this? I feel like I'm doing a pretty decent job, but am I just deceiving myself, sounding like somebody that's from a high horse saying, oh yeah, this is what worked for me. Oh, this is what I think you should do. This is what I think you should do. And if we take a step back to the initial introduction I gave, which was about I noticed how people were more invested in gossip podcast and gist podcast and all the podcast that somebody did something naughty or taboo. I started to also now think, well, I wouldn't blame people, especially Nigerians, because the economy and the country is really, 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 really bad and fucked up. And so I feel like if somebody goes out to hustle and work and is actually trying to make something out of their life, or they're basically trying to survive, for a good number of Nigerians, if it's not TikTok, for the most part, they just want to come back and play something that's going to make them laugh, or is going to make them be like, oh my God, something that will just release that dopamine hit, or it will be very exciting to them. So I couldn't blame them, or I do not blame them. When I thought about it further, I was like, I don't really blame them, And it's funny because I initially did release an episode, one of the first few episodes I released earlier in the podcast. I was talking about how Nigeria is really messed up and all of that, but that shouldn't derail people. And I still stand by that message. But this country is literally getting bad and hard day by day, day by day, day by day as the day goes by. So I was not going to be like, oh, everybody just going out for something fun, everybody just looking for a way to like escape stress and wahala and all of that. But alongside all of that thinking, I was also thinking, well, then, if that's the case, what I'm doing, is it worth it? And then I also thought, with me doing what I'm doing, am I even qualified to do it? Like, who am I to bring up this microphone and be talking about self development? And then, funny enough, a couple of days ago, I was then talking with a friend. We usually have very lengthy conversations. We don't talk much, but when we do, the conversations are like very, very beautiful. I don't know if you've ever experienced this thing with somebody whereby when you have a conversation with that person, it's almost as though your soul is being fed, like your soul feels energized. And I've spoken about this thing, funny enough, on the episode about how you feel after having conversations with people. And whenever I speak with this person, I genuinely just feel revived. If I had a problem that I'm coming to them with, all of a sudden I go back feeling, at least even if the problem is not solved, there's some sort of clarity. And I would want to believe it's vice versa. It would be so bad if it's not vice versa. And I'm like leeching off this person, but I genuinely believe that it's vice versa. And so a couple of days ago, I was having a conversation with this person, and somehow the podcast talk came up, and the person was talking about, oh yeah, they haven't listened to the recent episodes, but they will get up to it. Oh, that I'm doing a great job and all of that. And then I was like, I don't really know. I don't really think I'm doing a great job sometimes. And I really went in depth and I started talking and I started talking. And I was like, sometimes I even cringe at some of the episodes that I feel like I often feel like I'm not qualified and maybe I'm just doing too much. And, all of that. I was talking and talking and talking. And then something that this person told me, this my friend, it really stuck with me. The person sent me a very, very lengthy message, but the summarization of what the person was saying was that they had listened to multiple podcasts revolving around the same topics that I talk about. And one thing that always turned them off, if not immediately, but eventually, is that those people who talk about the topics that I talk about on their own podcast, they often come and talk to people from a place of, oh, I've conquered this, I've done this. Okay, so here are 10 ways to do this. All right, here are 5 ways. Here are 15 things you must do. Here are 40 things, those kind of people. And the person even told me that there was a particular time whereby they were looking for a particular topic and they needed clarity on some sort of topic. And when they went to a particular podcast to listen to that topic, there was something the person said on the podcast that just did immediately. That my friend was like, in their mind, they just went, oh, right, it's because you're not going through this. That's why you can just stay from wherever you are and then just talk about all of this. Like, just pour it out and be listening for me. This friend then went further to say that one thing that they love about my show is that I don't teach. That most of the people, and it's not as if people who made it and they want to give advice, it's not as if people who have made it in life and they intend to give advice and steps to other people. It's not as if those people are bad people or they are doing it wrong. But my friend was telling me that sometimes it can get very overwhelming from people who are just giving you a sort of, how will I put it? A sort of algorithm, like, for people who don't understand what I mean by that, it's like saying, it's like very technical, it's very Do this. First of all, step one, do like this, don't do like this. If this happens, go like this, don't go like this. Step two, do like this, do like this. You ensure like this goes like this or this goes like this. Step three, do this. So my friend was like, Martins, the fact that you even feel cringe, the fact that you feel, oh, am I doing too much? Am I that is one thing that would even that makes your entire show special because it feels like you're talking with a real human being. It feels like you're talking with somebody who's actually going through the mess as they're having a conversation with you. So my friend was like, most times, most podcasters, they are now teaching you, or most people who are talking about these topics that you talk about, they are teaching you, but you, the conversations that you have on your podcast, it feels as though you're with a pal, you're with a friend. And that was like the biggest compliment ever because that is exactly what I try to portray. And they said a lot more. I probably can't even remember, but all in all, it started to feel comforting that okay, my own point of view mattered, and this particular person made me realize that at least as unique and as distinct as whatever it is I was doing or putting out there was, it was actually something valuable. And it meant a lot to me. And I don't even know if this past couple of minutes I've been talking about this is making sense. Like you've probably turned off this episode a couple of minutes ago. Like, what is this guy talking about? He should just go and sit down. But I pray that it's making sense because it makes a lot of sense to me. And as we're having this conversation now, I think that there's a part of me that feels comforted by the words that my friend said to me because I am slowly starting to see things from their point of view, which is beautiful because I've always mentioned on the podcast about, surrounding yourself with blah, blah, blah. We all know that by now. Let me not sound like a freaking broken record. But basically, I think surrounding myself with this particular sort of person just helped me process this better. But I've also been thinking of something, and I would actually appreciate if you could help me do this. I would genuinely appreciate. So, if you look down at this particular episode's description, you're going to see an anonymous link. And in that anonymous link, I would genuinely appreciate it if you would send in your feedback, your thoughts, whatever it is you have to say about the podcast. I think a part of me, as much as I am squirming to say this, I think a part of me would genuinely appreciate it to just see the analytics, basically the numbers I see, because I have a dashboard, two dashboards actually, and I can tell okay, there is a consistent, steady listenership. But I do not want it to only just be I release, I check analytics. I would genuinely love to see feedback. Keep in mind that why I would request for this is because Spotify had disabled or has disabled the comment features for anybody in the African region, and majority of my listeners are in Africa, Nigeria specifically. And so there's going to be an anonymous link in the episode description below, and I would really appreciate if you could basically just tell me what you think about the podcast, how you think the podcast is valuable, if it's valuable, if it's not, tell me. Do not butter me up. Tell me what you think could be improved. What I genuinely would love that because I think that is how a community of people who want to strive for better, I think that's how it's built, basically. Because if you tell me what you think and where you think there is room for improvement, I could work on that. And ultimately, everybody has a wonderful experience on this show, in this conversation, right? And so I would genuinely appreciate that. But I think for now, until I get your response, right, the comforting factor would just be what my friend said, and I think I would still strive. One thing that I think is good, although I just know this thing theoretically, I've not yet practiced it, but I will. But I know theoretically in my head that for the most part, external validation shouldn't be what drives anybody to consistently do what they are doing. In as much as external validation is wonderful and it's good and it's all of that, I don't think that it's a good fuel to push through days whereby you doubt whether what you're doing is what it. And so let's not get very deep on this episode. I think my voice is even going down. I'm getting kind of tired. I'll probably go and sleep so that I'll rest this my eye that is tweaking. If you also listen in that anonymous link, if you also have some tips for this eye that has been tweaking, okay, please let me know and I would talk about it in the next episode. But yeah, thank you so much for hanging out with me. It's a wonderful conversation. It has always been a wonderful conversation with you as always. Thank you so much for hanging out. Check out the Almost 20 podcast on Instagram at Almost 20 podcast. Check me out on Instagram at underscore Guy Martins. And check out my TikTok at underscore Guy Martins. New episodes are always going to be released every Sunday bi weekly. If you're listening on Spotify, on Apple Podcast, you could rate the podcast like I would always say, 5 stars or nothing. If you rate anything less than 5 stars, I would find you. But that's all I have. That's literally all I have for today's conversation. Thank you so much for hanging out, and I'll talk to you in the next episode.